So let's park the discussion on the Philippines on the side for a moment, and let's focus on two other countries, India and Bangladesh. So for India, we have Mr. Chandra Sekaran Raghuraman, President and CEO of Ehans Energy, to share their investment requirements. And one thing is, Raghu was one of our financial closures. He's one of the 10 closures we shared earlier this morning. And now he's entering a second round or a third round of second round of investment. All right, Raghu?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, ADB, and thank you, Koi and G&G, for giving me an opportunity to be here. I have 80 slides in this deck, and 3 of them are not big, so I should be able to do it in 15 minutes. I don't want her to show up this. Let's try. All right. As Koi said, this is the second opportunity to be here in this. So this is a little bigger fundraise that we want. We are targeting about $5 million. So the first time was simpler, not simpler, but it was smaller. So I've been talking to some of my friends who are fund managers and large respected fund houses who are trying to also look at green energy. So I asked them, they would not invest because their ticket size is minimum $100 million. But I said, do I have? So one of them said that absolutely, gray-haired, 50 plus, and you have attempted entrepreneurship once and you have failed, and this is the second time you are doing well. We don't need to see your business plan. So that's a very encouraging news for someone like that. So moving. Well, I'll quickly go through the deck in 15 minutes. So we'll move seamlessly from one to the other. So this is a snapshot of what we are into, and the bolder lines are the aspirations. So we seem to be, I'm seeing presentations which are very focused on one product or one service, and we seem to be doing many things, and this has always been a discussion with a potential investor. Are you not into many things? On top of it, we claim, and I'd like Rajat to comment on this, we claim that we are the only pan-India company seriously operating in 14 states. And I've always focused on it because in India, in a country which is so diverse in culture and language, it's very important to build that capacity at an early stage to be pan-India, to be culturally sensitive to every region. And we have done that. So we're looking at many growth points. So our flagship product, which is also branded as Namma Urja, it's called NU Light. So that's the product home lighting system, sub $100. So we've done very well just by focusing on 1 or 2 districts in Tamil Nadu, the southern part of India. We are going to scale up to pan-India in 200 districts. And we put a very modest number of 20,000 systems. Getting into mini-grid is a very new game, and we just got into it very recently. So we have a very interesting business model where we are looking at we putting the money and collecting it over the next 6 years, and also tapping the corporate fund. We believe that we are the first in Asia, if not in the world, to bring world's largest private charity, United Way. United Way spends $5.6 billion last year. They spent $5+ billion every year on livelihood, education, and employment, and health, these 3 or 4. And they've never done anything on energy access. So we've got United Way, and so we're doing a pilot in India, and hopefully this should scale it up much bigger. So we're looking at a total of about $5 million over the next 3 years. And we would prefer it to be a balance of debt and equity. The debt part will go to fund the mini-grids and the repayment-oriented projects. The equity for building the capacity. Just a snapshot of Ehans Energy. We have been in the business from 2009. So maybe the worst is over. All the lessons that we had to learn, we have learned, but not really so. There'll be more lessons to learn. and we're growing consistently. If, one of the indicators of growth is attending ASAP. So the first time I came, I was the only guy, and now we have 3 more, 2 more, raise your hands. So we have 3-member team, so that's a sign of growth. So we are part of the ERM's portfolio. We have another company which is ERM's portfolio here, Camworks, also here. We have pioneered in the DC technology. We have taken this to high availability, high uptime banks. So using this, I'll explain to you later. We're widely recognized for our business plans, and there are many people who value a pan-India business. We're one of them, and we are a highly capable team. So as I said, we are in 14 states, and in these years we have managed to satisfy quite a few customers, and we have about 260, maybe more, hybrid installations. Our starting point was wind, micro wind energy as a generation. So we moved away from being a product company to a hybrid company because the cost of micro wind is far higher than solar right now. So the best is to make a hybrid of it and then focus more on the application of the energy rather than talking about the technology. So that's what we have done. So there are many measures to see how the energy that we provide is being beneficial to the society. And this is one of them that we see, that the children who are part of the network of our energy access are studying more. So this is the team. I have a very capable team to support me, and I've held many CXO positions in the past, including being the CEO of one of the top 5 software companies in India. And we have very consciously designated Rajesh, our HR head, as VP Diversity, because his focus is always to manage the diversity of talent, diversity of culture. And so the others, very experienced team. Many of them are new to the renewable energy industry, but that's the way it is. There's no ready talent available in the country, especially for off-grid market, who's so experienced. So we have a pretty solid mix of products, from low margin or low EBITDA, high volume, to high margin or reasonably good margin and low volume. So that's the spectrum. I think it's helping us very well because, for instance, last year we had a significant business from defense, the Indian Army. And this year it's not there because they have their own cycle of budgetary approvals. So that's on the higher side, the 10 kilowatt hybrid system and up. We know that it's going to come back 1 year later. So if my assumption or my belief is that if you're just focused on one product, there's always a risk of the revenue going up and down very dramatically. So we try to balance the risk by a wider range of portfolio, but of course this is even more challenging to manage. But I think we are doing well, and we will do well, to a scale of about $10 to $15 million. That's what I feel. There are many presentations here and all over the world which talks about what is the business case for off-grid markets in India, and we are taking some data points. One of them is our own research. For example, the table that you see, a small restaurant owner. So we are trying to assess what is the increased income for every hour of power that is made available to him, a roadside restaurant. So this is done, our own survey. We hired volunteers and contacted close to 400 customers in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. And it's very clear that his business on a monthly scale in the US dollar is anything between $125 to $250. And so in case you're providing a home lighting system of about $100, it should be possible for him to pay back very easily on a EMI or an easy finance model. So the other growth driver is that the climate group is also cited the market size to be between $350 to $400 million. And we are working very closely with leading microfinancial institutions, and we have powered about 125 branches of a leading microfinancial institution. And we know that Citrix computing, or centralized thin client computing, is taking off a big way because data, as we saw in Chris' presentation, everything is about data. So we work with Dell, we work with HP, we have got our DC powering system approved by Dell and HP, and we see this as a big growth. In fact, it is Dell and HP which are giving us leads to go to more banks. So we see that rural banking is going to take off a big way. More and more rural banks will come. The Reserve Bank of India, the federal bank, is also modulating the regulation. More licenses for urban banking will be linked to the rural banking. So these are the growth drivers. As I said, that this is our star product in the days to come, because sub $100, we think that this is one of the finest product to be positioned. And we are constantly measuring the impact of this on a very small business. For example, how does it help the women in the early morning for flower plucking? They're able to go and do it. So that's, of course, that's a different product. That's the solar lantern. But as a focus, this is how we are taking it forward. And I think our customer base is about 1 million customers. That's the MFI's customer base, and they have overall lending of about 9,000 crores. That's $1.5 billion. As I said, mini grid is new to us, and we are just about a year old. But our focus is to link it to the economic activity in the village. For example, this beautiful village in Uttarakhand, in district Uttarkashi, is on a river bank called Kala. The access to this village is by 11 kilometers. My first slide, I said, we are not only an off-grid, we are an off-road specialist. Many of the sites that we are doing is by foot. 83 kilometers by foot. 83 kilometers and driving is okay, but 83 kilometers by foot and carrying 10-ton material, that's the kind of work that we are doing. So we are choosing villages where there is a clear economic prosperity possibility, the kind of handicraft that they do, the work that they do. And we're also, as I said, we're also trying to model the mini grid in a way that the stakeholders are, taken into, confidence upfront. So as I said, United Way is leading this project management, and the corporate donors from United Way, Washington, are more comfortable in leaving it to United Way to front-end the project. They're actually educating United Way Mumbai and United Way India to learn how to do mini grids. And this will go a big way. So our target is about $3 million to be tapped from the corporate funding. So just to quickly summarize, we're doing very well in the last 3 years in terms of growth. We've been consistently growing, positive earning, zero debt. And we have built in the culture of AMC. We expect about 8% of the annual revenue to be AMC. And that's actually quite difficult to get, but once they get used to that, once they see a value in annual maintenance, they'll continue to pay. This is the growth projection. So about 10% EBITDA is what we are talking for the next 3 years. We'll reach a turnover of about 30 crores. That's about $5 million. Cumulatively, in the next 3 years, we'll do about $10 million. So the funds will get deployed largely on, if you look at the 70-30 rule, on 3 or 4 factors. One is we're going to build about 150 mini grids, out of which 100 will be funded by us and on a 6-year payback model. About 50 of them are the CSR one. And we want to do, you can see 30 large projects. What is happening is that the large, for example, there are a bunch of rural BPOs. Philippines is known for BPO. So there are a lot of BPOs which have moved to rural parts of India because the cost of infrastructure is lower. But then they are struggling with the power situation. But they also don't want to spend too much of capex. But they are all good customers, AAA credit rating customers. So we want to put our money and run the show and charge them per unit cost. So, and then of course capacity building of talent. Also we need to have a knock-room network operations center. We'll be investing on IT. And then we also want to explore going international in terms of services. So we've kind of considered the risk that we need to mitigate. So this is much debated on mini grid, the sustainability of mini grid, high delinquency. So we'll link it to as much as possible. We are still to see whether this is the right strategy, but at least we have thought about it. But then other things like in the rooftop solar, we've certainly seen how to mitigate the maintenance and abuse issues. Training is very important. And the DISCOM connectivity, that's also a risk. To sum it up, we are a great company to put the money because we believe that we have the capacity to grow, and 80% of our decisions are boardroom driven. We have built the capacity to influence the boardroom, present the right data, and convince the CXO to take the initiative. For example, we are talking to a large Indo-Canadian insurance company which has gone rural on the insurance sector. And the decision on anything to do with power is not with the CEO, it's with the CTO. So that kind of mapping is very important, otherwise we'll get lost. So we have done this, and as I said, pan-India presence, close to 65% of the staff live in those towns and villages close to our customer. And we have been recognized for our work by the climate group. I'll be happy to take questions and spend more time with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghu. So I'd like to invite our panelists if you have any questions.
Thanks for the presentation. My only question is, how do you see competition shaping up? Because I mean, in almost every let alone state, each city you would find 3, 4, 5 local players. And I think during one of our conversations in the morning, you said it's to a large extent the product is being highly commoditized. So what are your thoughts on this unorganized kind of competition?
Yeah, but as I said, 80% of our business is with corporate. If you look at even mini grid, we are doing the mini grid under the directive. For example, the large European or US or even Japanese corporations, which are giving money for mini grid, are insisting that you put this mini grid in and around the villages or in and around the area where their factory is located or their proposed factory is being located. I'll give you an example of how the CSR funding is so convincing in India. Suzuki, the giant, went through a trouble in Delhi. The cost of the strike was $1.6 billion, the bad way of managing the IR. And Ford Motors, 23 years of existence in Chennai, not a minute of downtime, no industrial relation trouble. Their CSR spending is only 50 crores, that's it. That's like less than $10 million. And the entire city vouches for Ford. That's the kind of impact that CSR has created. This is presented in a case study. So we would like always to be aligned with the corporate. And hence, the local players can be used as vendors, but they wouldn't compete with us because before the decision is approved, let's say by the CTO or the CEO or the CFO, there's a hell of a lot of questions about our capability to support the quality of product and reliability and references and so on and so forth. As long as the home lighting system is concerned, you're right, there is cheap quality or low-priced products from in India and from China. So we need to figure out how to tackle that issue. But right now we are aligning with MFI. So the MFI is bundling it along with the primary loan, and hence we are able to sustain the growth.
All right. So do you have a question? Maybe a quick question?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Because we're a little, maybe 15 minutes behind.
Just one question then. How do you go, and it's 150, it's a reasonable size and sizable amount of plant number of sites. How do you go about then select sites, those 150? How do you undefine them?
Almost all of them are in Uttarakhand, Himachal and Kashmir, which are off-road and off-grid. We have worked very closely with the state government for the last 2 years, and we are trying to make sure that it will never be grid connected. In fact, the state of Assam has already declared a list of about 1,500 villages which will never be grid connected. Uttarakhand has not done it, but in the bureaucracy they're very clear. Like for example, to draw a power line of even 11 kVA power line is going to cost them like $200,000 for a small village of like 100 hamlets. So I've been engaged in that discussion, and so we are looking at that kind of. That's why I'm not looking at 1,000, 2,000, and all that. But I know Rockefeller is engaged in this ABC model, and we have been discussing with telecom companies on the community model also. That could be another option. But I have my own reservation. We can talk offline because I was the first guy to pilot a telecom tower in 2009, and I was part of the GPM's core committee in India. Sagar knows that, and we have not done well. Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, they all have overtaken India as a percentage of towers that have gone green to the total population. There is some fundamental problem, in that sector in India. So I'd like to understand that before we put our money and an investor's money. But that's an important model to consider. I'll be happy to talk to you.
Great. Thank you, Raghu.
Thank you. Thank you.